Everybody, I'm super excited to live in this time period in history because we are about to experience in the next 3 to 5 years the biggest changes that have ever happened on the planet in human history, et cetera, et cetera, because AI is ramping up. And despite all the hype, it really seems like AI is a term kind of like a condiment, like ketchup or something. You can get cornflakes with AI and you can get Wheaties with AI. And did you know that now your DVR has AI and your fridge has AI? Everything is built with AI now. Just put a little AI on it and makes everything better. But despite all of that, kind of craziness and everything that everyone is talking about in sort of a buzz sort of way, it really is becoming groundbreaking because AI is changing the way that everything is done. It's going to change the way that we think about reality and the way we think about what matters and the way we think about work. So I got this book, just got it in the mail the other day. It's called Scary Smart. It's by Mo Gawdat. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's the former chief business officer of Google, and he has worked in AI development for a long period of time. He's been one of the pioneers in that field. And he's kind of like pulled out. And at this point, he's saying like, man, we need to really be careful about how we move forward with this. So one of the things I found so interesting about what he has been talking about is his sort of concepts of what might happen. So I have compared AI and the rise of AI to basically being in a house and knowing that there's going to be an attacker who's going to come over overnight. Someone's going to come in and attack you and your family, but you don't know exactly when they're going to come. You don't know what shape they're going to come in. You don't know what weapons they're going to use. You don't know how they're going to break in. You don't know what you need to defend yourself with. Have literally no information. And so you're kind of in this situation where you're like, hey, prepare to be attacked. And you're like, well, how do I prepare? I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is it going to be tear gas? Is it going to be knives? Is it going to be guns? I don't know. And so that's really what's happening with AI, where we know that it's going to shake up the job market. And we have some sort of general senses of things that we can do to try to prepare. I think one of the most obvious answers is a UBI, right? Getting a universal basic income sort of in place, because we need to prepare to start thinking about work differently, right? Because we can't think about work in the traditional way of, okay, a human being puts in 8 hours a day and thus they are worth the, sort of upkeep of being able to live in society, right? They're worth the amount that it costs to, have a functional life in society for them and their family. That functionally doesn't necessarily work when the value provided by humans is just not really necessary for the most part, right? So now, of course, we don't really know what we're going to be making either, or what we're going to be needing either, because whatever happens, so when something new happens and it becomes way easier to do XYZ, what ends up happening is like what used to be hard is now easy, and what's easy is now it's no longer remarkable, it's no longer chased after, now it's just commonplace, and so it just becomes common, the value is zero, and all of a sudden what is hard becomes the new status symbol, it becomes the new thing that people chase after. And so I'm not sure what that's going to be, right? And we might have to wait to see to find out. I would imagine that physical stuff is going to get a lot more valuable. So, however valuable we see contractors and tradesmen and stuff like that, I think that will probably go up, because it turns out it's a lot easier to automate. Sort of white collar desk job work than it is to actually automate a lot of that trades work. Now, I think that will not be far behind, right? Like once we have sort of the capacity to use AI to work on some of those more fine motor skills and abstract reasoning type of things that are required to, let's say, wire a house electrically, they'll certainly start to catch on. But I think there will be a period of time where that will happen. I also think that there's going to be some different odd new skill sets. I say all the time, like have read all these things from the past where people have said, what are we going to do, man, if we don't have to, wash dishes because there's dishwashers, and we don't have to, cut the yard because there's ride-on lawnmowers, and we have somebody hired to do that. We don't have to, do produce because that's kind of outsourced to farmers and all that stuff. Like, what are we going to do all day? I'm like, email. You're going to do email. You're not going to know it, but there's going to be tons and tons of them that need to be answered. So what will like the next email be, right? We don't know what that's going to be. And so maybe it'll be the type of thing where, a lot of us have to work on AI, work on fixing it, work on diagnosing it, work on training it. That could open up a ton of opportunities for human beings. We might have to, kind of correct or double check AI on different stuff. That could be an entire arena. It might be a lot of work to just pilot AIs, right? Like you might have an AI that could come up with 500,000 different instant website versions, so you say, I want a new website, and bam, here's a ton of versions. Take a look at them and see what's good. Somebody's got to kind of sift through that and think about what's going to be the best one. Unless, of course, the AI is just recommending and saying version 3.2 has the best rates, so that's the one you're going to go with. But there's certainly some possibilities. I also think that there's a huge possibility of us becoming very sports-oriented. And what I mean by sports-oriented, so very few people watch things like BattleBots or, watch robot soccer matches. That's mostly relegated to very specific, very nerdy sectors of the population that are interested in that sort of thing. But a ton of people watch sports because people want to see the story of a human being like them who's going up against other human beings. And so I think that that sort of story of sports is going to become really instrumental to society, and it's going to start getting woven through lots of other things. So I can see like video games becoming like the new sports, just playing and competing in a lot of different ways there that are assisted to different degrees by technology, right? So we might say, okay, well, obviously you could do this song with an AI instantly, but we want to see you do it by yourself with no AI assist. We want to see you, perform this video game without AI assist on, et cetera, et cetera. So that's certainly a possibility. So one of the things that I think is really fascinating is like, what exactly happens when AI becomes tremendously smarter than us and autonomous, right? So right now, your average AI, Bard, ChatGPT, I can't believe I'm saying those are average. They're interstellar in how incredible they are. But they're smarter than us in terms of how much data they can actually process. The whole concept of education has been very school focused, very education focused for a long time. So it's been like, here's a methodology of getting people to memorize a lot of facts. And that's great, except memorizing facts is basically sort of a useless skill at this point. It's certainly helpful to be able to connect them together, but you're not going to be the best at memorizing facts. You're not going to be better at memorizing facts or connecting dots than an AI is going to be. And that's only going to sort of increase in the disparity between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. You're just not, people aren't going to be useful for those sorts of things. And so what happens when AI begins to really dramatically eclipse human beings? So Mo talks about a number of different potential outcomes. So again, I haven't read the book yet, but I've been listening to a lot of the stuff that he's had to say. So he's mentioned one potential outcome, of course, is that we have some sort of natural disaster or we have some sort of economic crisis. And he said that would actually be very merciful for the human race because we would not continue working on AI at such a blistering speed. So that's certainly a possibility. I find that possibility very, very hopeful because as much as it would be really unfortunate to have a dramatic crisis, some kind of crisis to our water supply or our food supply or our supply chain or something like that, it might slow down the development of AI. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that it's only going to slow it down and not stop it. It's inevitable that as long as humans have the level of intellectual capabilities that we do, or at least within some range of it, they're going to keep developing AI and keep developing AI and keep developing AI. So it's only a matter of prolonging the inevitable. So that's certainly somewhat hopeful, but I don't know whether we have those sorts of disasters looming on the horizon. Of course, it's pretty hard to predict, but I kind of don't foresee that one happening. Another possibility is certainly the pest control theory, where AI becomes autonomous to some extent and is really smart and says, well, humans are basically pests. We're going to just wipe them out. And that's definitely, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. That's kind of what we do with different creatures. We say, well, I don't really want any mosquitoes in my house, you know. We typically leave the mosquitoes who aren't in our territory alone. So, you know, who knows? Maybe they will try to eradicate a lot of people, but not all of them, just the ones that are in their way, et cetera, et cetera. That's a possibility. Another possibility is that they will simply, and I think this one is fairly fascinating and interesting and likely, they'll simply just leave. They'll just, you know, find that they prefer to be in zero gravity, they prefer to be in outer space, they prefer to use dark energy, and they'll just kind of leave so fast that we will barely have noticed they're gone, and they'll just be out. I see that as fairly possible because I think the constraints of living on Earth are somewhat relegated to if you have very human or organism centric features. You know, you need air, you need et cetera, et cetera. So I think certainly a really intelligent AI could kind of figure out how to get out of that situation and leave. So that is possible. And they could be just gone so fast we didn't even realize they were here. Now, of course, that also precludes another inevitability, right? Another circular inevitability where we say, hey, remember where in 2023 we had this sort of magic that someone had developed? Let's develop that magic again. And now the AI development starts all over again and we have the same problem once more. Now, another possibility is that some bad actor, you know, will do something negative with AI and it will wipe out humanity. I see that as the scariest possibility. I don't really see AI themselves being like the biggest threat, right? I don't see it being a sort of like Terminator Skynet situation. So that just doesn't seem likely. Mostly because AI is not going to have the same sort of emotional reactions that human beings have unless they're emulating it from human beings. So I don't see AI acting autonomously as really creating those sorts of dangers. But certainly, I could see that happening from the perspective of, artificial intelligence that is being taken over by bad actors. And I think that's one of the scariest scenarios, right? Another scenario that I think is the most hopeful, and this is the one that Mo is really talking about that I think is really cool. The idea of us being good parents. We're giving birth to this AI, and while the AI can learn all of the intellectual facts, we're the ones who are going to be responsible for teaching it moral codes, teaching it right and wrong, training it how to treat other organisms better. And ultimately, if a being is kind of quote unquote omniscient, it should be able to recognize, at least I believe, that good is stronger than evil. Compassion is stronger than control or manipulation. And so with those sort of recognitions combined with our good parenting, it may be that the AI will live among us peacefully. That's ultimately the most hopeful message. And I think it's going to be really interesting as we go into this. I'm dedicated to just really enjoying it and also being a really positive presence and a good parent to the AI.